Namaste. I am honored to spend a moment with you to discuss the wonderful integration of the life medicine science of Ayurveda to yoga for the fall season. So as we begin our brief conversation, I want to thank you for joining this session. My name is Maria Garre, and I am Director of the New Mexico School of Yoga in the United States. Namaste. So as we begin our time together, let's pause to begin in Guru lineage for me in mantra. So take a moment to find your seat, literally sit, breathe in and out through the nose. And let us collectively come together and also call in the divine wisdom. Om Ganam Tva Ganapatim Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamastravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanaspata Anaha Shrinvanu Tibihi Siddhasadanam Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignyam Kurumedeva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Siddhi Buddhi Shakti Sahita Shri Mahaganadipataye Namo Namaha Nirvignyam Kuru. Namaste. So I'm going to offer a digital presentation for our time together here. There we go. So our topic of discussion are living practices, really, what can we practically do to learn from the wisdom of both Ayurveda and yoga to remain healthy, happy, balanced, and joyful. So there are some basic principles in Ayurveda that all of us need to begin with and start from. And so those basic principles are the theories of Ayurveda that really are very much based upon the tridosha system, which really recognizes in this concept of dosha that there is a great complexity, but also simplicity to Ayurveda. It begins with an understanding that there's a universal connection, as above, so below, meaning that there is a sun, which is the center of our solar system, and therefore in my body, there is the same concept of a seed core sun, really known as the solar plexus, for example, in our body. So as above, so below, everything is integrated. We are all connected universally, cosmically, energetically, even as beings of this planet, living on this planet. So as above, so below. Ayurveda also recognizes, and really so does yoga, from being part of the Vedic sciences and related to the Shadarshan, there is an external world, meaning the entire physical world, both planetary world, even like space, is based upon this 5-element Pancha Mahabhuta concept theory, which really begins with cosmology, very well explained and accepted throughout in the Sankhya philosophy system. Very long story short, 5 elements comprise all. These 5 elements are space, air, fire, water, earth. Everything is made up of these 5 elements. There's an evolution even as how they came to be. If you think about, for example, space, there's great big open space. That space begins to move air, and so on. So these 5 elements build upon each other, rise upon each other, but more importantly, within these 5 elements, we recognize that they have qualities: heavy, light, soft, oily, rough, steady, static, not moving, moving, right? These elements have different qualities, aspects, which also are related to their actions, karma, right? So there's guna and karma to the elements, which really bring forth an effect. That effect of the elements is seen internally in Ayurveda. We see it on the inside as the world of dosha. The psychophysiology, right? The psychophysiological principles of who we are, that we are really a combination, an amalgamation, a marriage of elements coming together biologically in the body, recognizing that and then transforming it into a 3 dosha system. Vata dosha is when space and air come together. So Vata dosha refers to space, air, movement. Dark space is dark, cold, very cold. Vata, cold. Movement, space, ethereal. Cosmic, Vata, dry, very light. The next concept of combination is when fire hot, and heat comes together with water. Hot water, oily water, pitta, dosha, to heat, to transform, pitta, ta, transform, pit, and ta, tapas, to heat. So the principle of water that is hot, that is activating enzymes, agni, pitta, psychobiological principle in the body, pitta. Kapha dosha, kapha is water and earth. Psychophysiological principles, when water and earth unite, heavy, lots of water, lots of earth, lubrication, providing moisture and lubrication to the body, right? Softness to the body, water and earth, strength to the body, water and earth. So through Ayurveda, we unify the ideas of qualities and elements and actions and causes and effects through these elements, through the doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha. We understand the whole world based upon these simple concepts within Ayurveda. And so these qualities bring forth healing principles. There are 10 pairs of opposites. They are the guna pairs of Ayurveda for healing. That basically within Ayurveda, there are 10 pairs, and they are set up as opposites for us to understand them a little better. These gunas, these qualities, really describe the dosha. Who is vata? Well, vata is the red, cold, dry, rough, clear, hard. It's also mobile, but it's not in red. Vata is very mobile. It's the only dosha that truly moves. But the ones in red really are relating to fall, since that is our focus for this brief introduction to fall in Ayurveda. So we have the opposite, hot, cold, temperatures, temperature opposites, it's healing opposites. If internally you are too hot, then we're going to counter that heat with some cooling things. That's why for a fever, we would put a cool washcloth over the forehead where we feel very hot. But in Ayurveda, arguably, we would say, oh, but the home of fires in the solar plexus also put a cold washcloth over the solar plexus. So these gunas, these pairs of opposites, are very important. So for us to understand fall, we need to understand and get to know what are the qualities of fall: cold, dry, rough, clear, and hard. And you might ask yourself, why and how is fall these words? So we're going to go deeply into that in our next slide. Let us understand first fall through Ayurveda. Fall is going to bring now the qualities that are more cool and cold. It's going to invite cold winds, the sometimes humid quality of summer, depending where you live, so hot, windy, or dry, hot. But there is heat in what we would label as a summer. But now the cool winds are going to come from the south, and the southern hemisphere is going to influence a temperature change. We're going to receive the cold winds. And if we get cold winds and there's a shift in a circle and all the currents and tides, everything comes in cooler, cold winds come in. The fall winds come in, and they're cold. And what happens also typically in this transition out of the hot time is that we do move into what we would consider dry, very dry, because all that heat at the end of the day combines with the constricting qualities of the fall, which is to start to contract in because winter is coming. And there's this excess dryness that comes with fall. So it's very dry, rough, turns things hard. Think about a forest. That transition of the forest when it's very moist and warm to then moist and warm or hot. The moisture starts to get burned away from the heat of the sun. And then eventually all that heat creates a drying. And then the coolness comes in and creates more constriction, more dry, more rough. It is why the forest loses its leaves. The trees turn beautiful red colors, yellow colors. The trees become the colors of the sun in the fall. That is Mother Nature showing us, oh, we are releasing excess heat. Right? Vyana, we are extending out, releasing heat. And then what is left is going to be a clear forest, a dry forest, rough forest. Things just look a little hard and cool. Now, Ayurveda recognizes that this isn't just going to happen magically, right? All of a sudden, very quickly. And the reality is that there is an equinox, right? The equinox, the great fall equinox. And what it means is basically there's a beautiful opportunity now where the sun and the moon are giving us equal qualities. So that guna charge, right? There's going to be coolness and hotness, but more in balance. When the moon and the sun begin to not compete or be extreme, but offer us equal, harmonizing energy, it's a good time for us to get balanced, to really sort of reset from the intensity of the heat. So fall becomes an equalizing equinox time. In Ayurveda, we call it Vikshepa, Sanskrit term, where we are going to begin to balance the inner with the outer, that as nature is going through a balancing process before Vata really takes over. But this is a perfect opportunity to really recognize that the qualities of, we could say, Pitta are meeting Vata, and somewhere in between all that is going to be a perfect balancing time for the sun and the moon. And what becomes important is to recognize that Pitta is going to be released. So excess hot, sharp, penetrating, light, bright qualities are going to maybe be released to the eyes, sensitivity to the eyes, red eyes. Eyes can get affected through allergies in the fall. The skin, we can start to experience itchy skin, drier skin, rougher skin, eczema, psoriasis. Our blood can have become slightly overheated, and some of us would qualify that as Pitta's release. We could even feel slightly anemic. or that blood is also going to be related to your circulation, making you too hot too quickly. Temperature regulation is off, circulation, blood. And hair often can fall in excess as we transition. So with too much oily quality, then you're going to get hair fall. So these are all imbalances. This is not, Ayurveda doesn't say, oh, this is normal. I mean, it's normal if you're not balanced. So we want to watch out for these things. Now, vata can increase itself. So vata, as we are moving from vata to pitta, of course, we have to be mindful of vata. And this whole idea that we're moving from one transition to another, where there's already movement, that is vata. So here, vata can increase in the bones. So bones can get sensitive. In the colon, there can be constipation, dryness, low back pain. Also, bones would be low back pain. Bones feel weak, creaky. Therefore, joints dry, rough, popping, cracking joints. The skin can become dry, rough, that quality of vata. And then circulation could render cold hands and feet. Could circulation that there's more cold circulating, too much hot, but even circulation, that movement is related to vata, vyana, vata. So Ayurveda says, hey, through yoga, through Ayurveda lifestyle practices, if we recognize these gunas, these qualities, and we apply certain principles, then we can bring balance to lifestyle choices. Don't assume that this is because it's healthy, it's right for me. There are beautiful, healthy things in the world, but they are not always right for me no matter what, just because they are healthy. Like spinach or carrots. Could be a time and place where carrots may not be the right choice to bring balance, right? So that's where Ayurveda really excels, I say, shines. Ayurveda shines and helps us really make good, well-informed decisions. So we begin by recognizing the fall season to Ayurveda. What can we do? One of the most beautiful things that we can begin to do in order to create good balance to Ayurveda and also start to invite a consistent sadhana or practice, if you will, is that anchor your morning. And certainly it doesn't have to be an hour every morning, but anchor your morning routine steadily and consistently. And if anything, Ayurveda would definitely recommend that the first and most important thing we could do in order to make good decisions is to stabilize prana, communication, the movement of prana in the body, stabilize it. First thing, yoga, unify, Ayurveda would say. First thing, clear mind, balanced mind, then maybe we will make better decisions. So a morning routine that will steadily and consistently support good pranayama and meditation, and we'll get into that. You want to think about also mindful practices versus multitasking. Make a commitment to yourself, especially now for the fall. I will really do one thing at a time with my mind and my body. So when you are perhaps doing something like laundry, you're going to be into that laundry moment. It will be a wonderful moment of laundry. Placing the clothes, pouring or picking your laundry detergent, placing everything in order, preparing, taking the clothes out of the laundry basket. So laundry, mundane or just mindful. There is no rule that mindfulness can only happen on our yoga mat. Our sadhana, our practice, is a teaching dedicated to really practice as best as we can true mindfulness. And then remember to do that throughout the day. But now in the fall, it's especially important because there's a lot of movement, change and shift in schedule. There's a lot of change and uncertainty, we could also say, in these pandemic times. So with all of that, it is important for us to just really be present to everything we're doing, from driving a car, bicycle, moto, to Ardha Mukha Svanasana, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, Ardha Matsyendrasana, right? All asana with breath, mindful practices. Now, Ayurveda does have some great body care practices as well. We'll get into that. Dietary practices as well. What are the best dietary choices? And obviously, that integration, again, yoga, but living yoga is of philosophy and of asana. Yoga is not just about asana. So there are, though, asana recommendations, just a few, and also just thought processes. And now, just as much as we want to pay attention to the morning, you really want to pay attention to the evening. What is your evening routine? What are you doing to prepare for bed every night? Just anchor that beautiful morning, anchor the evening, and there will be wonderful success at keeping all the qualities balance of both Pitta and Vata that are meeting during this wonderful time. So we'll begin with morning meditation. What kind of morning meditation would Ayurveda recommend to keep Vata balance and Pitta balance, and that integration would be simple and gentle, could be so hum, internally feeling the inner mantra of so and hum, so hum. If the mind feels very restless, it is good to let the mind sit with mantra. But if the mind feels that it will never have space from the to-do list, and it's all about getting things done, that fire of doing, then give yourself space and just breathe into the space of breath, just simple breath. So morning meditation can be more for Pitta dosha or Vata dosha, also depending on that imbalance. Highly recommend Anuloma Viloma, which is alternate nostril breath, somewhat we would say forceful, like blowing your nose. So you will want tissues to do this pranayama, and you will want to make sure that it is okay to stop and clean things out. So obviously taking all the, your asanas as you sit, the basic technique for Anuloma Viloma is that we inhale through the left, sitting up nice and tall, you exhale through the right, like you're blowing your nose. You inhale right, then you switch to exhale left, kind of like you're blowing your nose. Inhale again, switch to exhale. Inhaling, switching to exhale. That's basic Anulom Vilom. Pranayama should definitely be begun after being properly taught by a teacher, definitely believe that. So there are many qualified, this is very, very popular pranayama, and it's not Natarajasana, it's a bit more active. It's definitely kind of a pranic, like plunger to bring pranic flow, even flow to the body, meaning stabilize sun channel, moon channel, Ida, Pingala, Surya, and Chandra, equinox. Brahmari. Soothing Brahmari calms the nervous system where there could be too many sharp penetrating qualities or too many mobile qualities, moving around, jumping around, constricting qualities, fear. So Brahmari stabilizing to the nerve tissue. So that particular pranayama is done through buzzing and humming. You hum like a bee through the back of the throat out to the nose, while meanwhile covering your ears and your eyes. So as your index finger goes towards the third eye, the middle finger goes to the corner of the eyes, then your thumb is going to close your ears. That way you hum on the exhale like so. So that is done as a wonderful soothing pranayama. And then, of course, there is shitali done by breathing in through the mouth, like you have a straw or a tube with the tongue, and then exhaling through the nose. Always first thing in the morning and done on an empty stomach. Best way to do pranayama. Now, oiling massage, right? Wonderful is to oil the body with sesame oil, a mixture of sesame coconut oil. It's very good, and you just oil the body. It's called Abhyanga in Ayurveda. But just really just think about, I'm going to oil my body, massage oil into my body, and then take a nice hot warm bath or shower. Applying a little sesame nose to the nose, oiling the nose, so you can simply apply sesame oil to the nose, coconut oil to the nose, just like through your finger and massaging it like that. Just simple oil on the tip of your finger and inside your nose. Same, you can put a little oil in the ears, kind of lubricate right there, the opening of the ear. And movement, you know, mindful movement is going to be important, like walking, getting out with nature, being with nature as it's balancing. If we can be in the balanced energy of the sun and the moon, then we can also breathe that into our body. So the self-care body practices are there. Now, asana. What kind of asanas can we get into? So some wonderful asanas during this time are things like tree pose, vrikshasana. Vrikshasana is wonderful, activates the bone, the femur bone, for example. Vata is all about the bones. You can see the arms opening out nice and wide, kind of breathing out through the gills. We like that to kind of let pitta breathe and release any excess heat. So think about being a nice palm tree. Same with Setu Bandhasana down at the bottom, that bridge pose, opening through the solar plexus and releasing heat. That's something that you definitely want to think about doing, and deepening the exhalation perhaps. Also something like Natarajasana with the nice cool Himalayas in the background, right? Lord Shiva. Actually that's Bhagirathi Peak. So there, Natarajasana, you get to stretch the solar plexus, release heat, focus. That's very mindful. You're balancing and also activating into the pelvic bone, the sacrum, the femur bone, all places where Vata likes to hang out. We like Natarajasana for fall. Trikonasana, another wonderful asana to move circulation, Vyana, get energy to the liver, spleen, gallbladder, places where pitta likes to hang out. At the same time, lateral flexion through the pelvis also helps activate balance, Vata. Malasana, well, we know that's a very earthy pose, connecting to the femur bone, Apanavayu, sending energy down. Also, there's this excess thinking, analyzing, judgments that can be there. Apana really allows energy to come down. And then definitely loving Bhujangasana. Bhujangasana is a place where you stretch through the solar plexus, but at the same time stabilize into the femur bone and sacrum to ground, Vata dosha. Warm tea. So dietary practices, warm tea, root vegetables, mushrooms, yams, potatoes, right? That's things that are also going to be cooling, like asparagus. Asparagus is wonderful. Soups and stews, right? And spicing them accordingly, moving towards grains and legumes and easy to digest foods, and choosing light meats, white meats like white chicken or light fish. Different scents or essential oils sometimes get asked, where you could go for amber, vetiver, and geranium essential oil aromatherapy if that is your jam. But we love spices to make tea. We love spices for cooking our grains, right, and our veggies. So cardamom, cinnamon, basil, ginger, asafoetida, hing, especially anytime you cook legumes. Hing is very useful for Vata and nourishing the colon. Nutmeg really also helping with that excess thinking, and saffron great for the liver blood. In Ayurveda, we do have some herbs like ashwagandha bala, which are really, they're like the stabilizers, equalizers, and heavy herbs. So they're Vata, so you want to be able to digest them, and they're heating. Sashmula is like drinking 10 herbs. And there are things like Maha, Sudarshan, and Tulsi that really help and support circulation and the lymphatic system. So that's a little bit more advanced, but just understanding that Ayurveda is a medical science that supports all. And that, in a very brief offering, is the information that really offers you a small but comprehensive view into the power of Ayurveda and yoga, how the two come together to truly transform our lives and our empowerment towards health and healing, but also supporting that path for others, those of you who are teachers on the path. So practitioners, therapists, and teachers on the path, may you continue through the glow of wisdom, of Vedic wisdom, that is of yoga and Ayurveda. And in closing, I offer the prayer that is of the teachers and the students. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Aum Shanti Shanti Shanti. It was my pleasure sharing with you. Namaste.